One of the coolest things about using a tarp is how many different ways you can set it up. It's like having a different shelter every night, providing you with a new experience every time. Now this is just a common A-frame style shelter, and this is without a doubt the most common way that you'll see a tarp shelter set up. And there are a lot of tarps, like ones with a catenary cut, where it's curved across the ridge line. Those do better in wind, but you can only set them up in this style here. Now this is great for storms specifically, just because you're covered on these two main sides and you'll be right in the center. Not a lot of wind or rain is going to be able to get to you, but in really heavy storms, or if you're expecting really heavy wind, you can modify this just a little bit. And that's one of the things I love about tarps, is that even with a setup that you've used 100 times, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. We'll kind of hunker this one down and set it up more for like a really heavy storm, what I would do. So in a heavy storm, you just stop using the guy lines and you tack each point down to the ground itself. So literally no rain, no wind, no anything can get under there. You're entirely sheltered. So this is the A-frame, and these are just two ways to set it up, but you can do this in a lot of different ways. So this is a modified half pyramid. Modified because I used a trekking pole at this end to hold up one side a bit higher than the other. The alternative is to have both ends coming down just like this at that angle. I like the modified one, and this is my personal favorite shelter style, because a modified half pyramid provides me with full protection from two sides. One side is left open, where usually I'll have a bunch of trees or bushes here ideally, or just have this side away from the weather. And then this end is my living end, where my head is over here, my feet are over there, and at this end I have plenty of room to eat and sleep and be happy and merry. Now this is just set up totally flat. It's longest going vertically with me, so I will sleep just like this underneath it. And this is a really nice setup for a really small tarp. As you can see, the tarp itself is totally stretched out, so it is completely flat, which with a smaller tarp is good because this gives you the most amount of surface area underneath what you're using. So I personally don't really use this one a lot because it's open on three sides, but it is very easy to set up. You only need two guy lines, 4 stakes, and if you want a little bit more protection, you can tie some guy lines on either side. And again, that's really the beauty of the tarp. You can take the basic style, say an A-frame or a half pyramid or this flat tarp style, and you can just add things onto it. You can tie more guidelines to the ground, you can attach your points to the ground directly, or raise them up with trekking poles and sticks, so you have one part kind of elevated and one part down below. I use the half pyramid the most out of any of these, but every single night it would change a little bit depending on the weather. In heavy storms I would have it tight and up against me close, and then when the weather was nice, or I was maybe only sort of expecting rain, I would have it much more open, where I would have 3 sticks attached to lift up different sides of it. So this is a good one, but I think it's just a little bit too open for me. Now this is just like the flat style that we had before, but the other one was going vertical and you would sleep with it vertically. This one you sleep in it horizontally, as close to the back as possible depending on how the weather is. The advantage of those two shelters is it's super fast to set up. You only need 2 guy lines, 4 stakes, so it's really fast, and you get the entire surface area of the tarp. So although this one is fully open on one side and then 2 sides at least half open, this actually provides a lot of protection. And I can think about one time on the Eastern Continental Trail, and I was going through one of the biggest storms that I had experienced the entire way in 5,000 miles, the biggest storm. I chose this style shelter because with my tiny little tarp that I was using at the time, this provided me the most room underneath it to keep rain away from me. So not only is it easy, it actually provides a lot of space underneath and a lot of protection from rain, given you don't have a ton of wind. So during that storm, I slept as far back as I possibly could, and although my tarp was only 5 by 9, this one is 9 by 10, I still stayed completely dry even though it was just pouring all around me. So I'd say this is a pretty good tarp basics. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of ways you can set these things up. So I definitely recommend just learning how to do one of these and then figuring out all sorts of different ways you can personally modify that one until it's just second nature. So you really can't beat the style or the versatility of a tarp. You can't beat the weight savings of a tarp. That if you're going into just really heavy sustained bug territory, then yeah, a tent is probably better. But for all other situations, tarps are great. Tarps have been used on all of the Triple Crown trails very successfully. I personally have used them on the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, Florida Trail, and all sorts of other things in between, and have been very happy with them, and at the same time have also carried roughly a 5 to 6 pound backpack for each and every single one of those through hikes. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys have maybe learned something from this series, or maybe been more inspired to go check out a tarp yourself. Personally, I just want to share that same joy that I've experienced with them with you.